We all know that feeling right after you play a game where that voice inside your head says, I think I played pretty good, or this was one of the worst human performance the world has gazed upon. But here's the big question. How accurate is that voice in your head? How accurate is intuition? Because think about this. If my intuition turns out to be very wrong, well then I may have wasted countless hours playing games thinking I was getting better, when in reality, my brain only felt that way. I sure hope that's not true. So here's the plan. Well, 1, I need to find a game, and 2, I need to find a way to measure intuition versus reality. That's it. Pretty simple, right? Not really. So the first one is easy. I could pick any game. But the second one is difficult because how do you measure reality? No, seriously, it's a really hard question to answer. What objectively counts as a good play or a bad play? It depends, right? Unless you are playing a specific type of game. When you look at a game like Geometry Dash or Osu, finding out if you are playing good or bad is much simpler. In Geometry Dash, the higher the percentage through the level, the better you are doing. In Osu, the higher the accuracy, the better you are doing. But only one of these games can you input your own intuition score. Can you guess which one that is? If you guessed Osu, you are correct. In Geometry Dash, I can't really give a score of how good I think I am doing based on, say, the level's percentage, since that is more of an intuition of how long a level feels, not how good or bad I am playing. But in Osu, I can finish a map and then give my intuitive guess on my accuracy score, and then check the real value. This makes it the perfect game to do this experiment. So I downloaded a bunch of new maps and I was ready to start testing the voices in my head. I put a sticky note to cover the percentage score and I ended up playing 20 maps that were around my level. Some slightly higher, some slightly lower. I didn't check the real percentage until after I did all 20 maps. All maps were new and all maps were only played once. So all the intuitive guesses I wrote down were completely blind. After getting them all done, this was what I got. My mean absolute error was 3.58%, while my median absolute error was 2.665%. So on average, my intuitive guess and the real score were off by about 3.58%. But my RMSE, root mean square error, was 4.35%, which suggests that there were some outliers in the data since RMSE squares the error. So what were the outliers? They were around 7 to 8%. But here's the weird part. The maps that had 7 to 8% error did not come from the hard maps or the easy maps. They came from all maps. This makes me think that fluctuation in intuition might not occur only by map difficulty, but by something else that goes on in your brain. But let's look at directional error. Did I tend to overestimate or underestimate? Turns out, neither. My mean signed error was negative 0.138%, which means I was very subtly underestimating my accuracy. Since I wanted to see what could have caused the outliers, I decided to do it again the next day. This time, before I did the test, I tried to get myself angry since I was wondering if rage caused the error. So I spent around 30 minutes watching politics, rage bait, the news, and even bad comments to really get my blood pressure going. And once I felt sufficiently angry, I did the 20 test with the same exact rules. This was what I got. My average intuition error increased by about 8% relatively. I also had more outliers, and interestingly, I was underestimating myself more. But I didn't stop there. Later that night, I decided to do the 20 test again, but this time, doing it when I was completely tired. Maybe being tired affects my intuition, so I pushed to doing 20 more again. And this was what I got. My average intuition error was actually better across the board. The mean, the median, the RMSE were all lower. But with one caveat. This time, I was overestimating myself. But I didn't stop there. The next day, I decided to do one last test. In this one, I would finish a map and then immediately play this rhythm test as a distraction. And then I would input my prediction. All of this 20 times. And this is what I got. My average intuition error was the highest in the distracted test, having a 22% relative increase in error compared to the control. My median was also the highest, and the RMSE was also the highest. I was also overestimating myself more compared to the control. Looking at all this, my theory is that anger causes a slight increase in error, but also leads to underestimation, probably as a conservative or a defensive mechanism. Tiredness, on the other hand, I guess leads to a cleaner intuition, since you're not overthinking as much as the control, but it leads to overestimation, like how nighttime tends to cultivate the most impulsive decisions. Distraction is the most dangerous one. It led to the highest increase in error. I'm also guessing the overestimation is similar to the tired test, where you don't overthink as much when you are distracted. I think this hints at the idea that if what you do requires intuition, there's a sweet spot of a mental state to increase accuracy. If you want to try this test or something similar, we are conducting and brainstorming a bunch of tests on Discord, so if you want to be a part of it, feel free to join. We are currently doing tests like how much does research improve your rank in gaming? How much more effective is coaching compared to self-review? What's the difference between expertise as a generalist versus specialist, and a bunch more. Link will be in the description.